Can you believe that everyone's favorite quirky sailor who loves a can of spinach is now in the public domain? That's right, Popeye the Sailor Man, the beloved squinty-eyed, pipe-smoking, spinach-powered superhero, has had his fair share of evolutions over the years, and he's finally hitting the public domain. His journey from comic strip to animation, through countless comic books, and even into the world of webcomics, has made him one of the most endearing and enduring characters in pop culture. Let's take a deep dive in the history of Popeye, the sailor man who's been around since 1929 and he's overcome so much to get where he is today. Popeye first appeared on January 17th, 1929 in the Thimble Theater comic strip. Initially, he was a minor character and was introduced as a sailor with a distinctive squinty eye and corncob pipe, and he immediately had a recognizable catchphrase: I am what I am, and that's all what I am. His quirky and brash nature quickly captured the attention of readers, and before long, Popeye was stealing the spotlight from the other Thimble Theater characters. By the early 30s, Popeye had transformed from a supporting character into a centralized figure in the comic strip. Popeye's popularity grew rapidly, and soon King Feature Syndicate, which had purchased the rights to Thimble Theater, began looking for ways to expand his presence. Popeye became a star in his own comic strip, appearing daily in newspapers across the country. As Popeye's comic strip and popularity soared, so did his presence in other comic books. Over the decades, Popeye's adventures were chronicled in multiple comic book series, each reflecting a different era of the character's legacy. The first major series began in 1948 and ran until 1984, which the stories published by various companies including Dell Comics, Gold Key Comics, King Comics, and Charlton Comics. Bud Singerdorf was a key writer and artist on Popeye's adventures during this time period. He would help guide the character through his many adventures and battles with Bluto. One could say he really brought Popeye to life. Speaking of real life, Popeye was actually based off a real life person. It is said the real life inspiration for Popeye was Frank Rocky Fiegel, a Polish born tough laborer from Chester, Illinois. He would always get in the fights, and it was believed that he could have been a professional boxer. Instead, he ended up having a career as a sailor in the Merchant Marines. His unique look and personality truly can be seen in the character of Popeye through his comics and cartoons. It was clear that Rocky may have been the inspiration, as many say, to this iconic character. Besides being an iconic character in the world of comics, Popeye also grew in the world of television and movie shorts. In 1933, Fleshler Studios, who would later become Paramount Pictures, began producing a series of theatrical shorts. Popeye's first cartoon was a hit, and he quickly became an animation icon. The animated series expanded the lore around Popeye, and it would introduce new characters like Wimpy, Eugene the Jeep, and Poop Deck Pappy. Through Max Fleischer's vision, Popeye's iconic consumption of spinach, which gave him supernatural strength, became a trademark of the series, and Popeye's new theme song, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man, became just as famous for the character. Fleshler's cartoons were immensely popular, and by 1938, Popeye had surpassed all other Hollywood cartoon characters in popularity. After Paramount Pictures acquired Fleshler Studios in 1942, they reorganized the studio into Famous Studios, which continued producing Popeye cartoons, especially with the war-themed content during World War II. The war effort would really help grow the popularity of the character even more, as he was a true American soldier who was trying to defend his country from the villains like Bluto. In the 1960s, Popeye would move to television. Popeye's television show would be called Popeye the Sailor, which would air on King Feature Syndicate. These episodes often reimagined Bluto as Brutus and simplified the artwork for Popeye as they were on a TV budget. The show ran until the early 1980s, continuing to entertain new generations with reruns and being picked up by local channels. Popeye also starred in a 1978 Hanna-Barbera series, the all-new Popeye Hour, which aired on CBS. This series aimed to retain and bring back the feelings of the original comics. And in 1987, Popeye and Son introduced a fresh angle to Popeye, as he was now a father with a son named Popeye Jr., and once again, they were going on adventures to save his wonderful woman, Olive Oyl. What truly made Popeye stick out in both the comics and the cartoons was the fact that Popeye was really a normal person. He was just a sailor man who was out doing the best he could. He really resonated with the American people. He was just the average Joe who wanted to be with his wife and have a child. That's all he wanted to do, and he kept having to thwart off the evildoers. That is what caused Popeye so much popularity within the United States. That's what led to him becoming an iconic character. Think about the time period when he was created, the American values, and the war effort. All these things created a perfect storm for Popeye to increase in popularity throughout the 1960s, 70s, and into the 80s. It was the perfect storm, the perfect generation to be raised on Popeye the Sailor Man. Besides incredible popularity in the world of comics and on TV, Popeye has actually had a cult-like following in Japan and other Asian cultures, especially in the manga community, as he's become very popular in that area and also in things like webcomics. Surprisingly, Popeye's popularity started in the 1960s in Japan. Believe it or not, after the war effort, when Japan was being helped out by GIs and becoming more Americanized, as you could say, Popeye became a household name. He became a slapstick comedian in the world of Japanese manga, and this helped the character grow even more. Everyone in Japan knew who Popeye the Sailor Man was. And throughout that decade, Popeye's popularity grew, and by the 1980s, they would have special one-off comics that would bring a resurgence to the name. As time went on, Popeye found a home in the world of manga and in the Asian culture as a very popular comic book character, and to this day, he is still a household name that many people know in Japan and other Asian countries. Of course, before we wrap up, we have to talk about the spinach. Popeye's spinach addiction was actually created by accident, but it did have a huge impact in the world of spinach. When Popeye started eating the can of spinach, it was a joke. But as it grew, they began writing it into more and more comics and into TV. And once kids saw him eating spinach on TV, it caused, in the American culture, a rise in the consumption of spinach. It actually jumped up by 33% within the United States. Statues of Popeye were erected to showcase his impact on the spinach industry as well as on American culture. Popeye is a true icon. No matter who you ask, I'm sure they know the song Popeye the Sailor Man. Popeye is still popular to this day. He can still be seen in theme parks like Universal Studios Orlando, where he has his own water area in the comics area of Islands of Adventure. It's truly iconic to see this character still alive to this day. There's a lot we didn't cover in this, like how Robin Williams once played a live-action version of Popeye, and many people loved his iconic style that he brought to the character. But Popeye is still an icon. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below if you're a fan of Popeye the Sailor Man. We'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you.